terrible job.
Yeah. So we were using Melon to stream our lives, and we weren't told that they'd been acquired and our scheduled stream cancelled. All of that fun stuff to find out, 15 minutes before you go live. But nevertheless, I've got quick fingers and luckily quick brain as well, so we were able to scramble a quick live event for you guys. Because we didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. We didn't want you to miss out on this opportunity. And so we're back with Gareth. Hi, Gareth. Thank you so much. Apologies for all the technical issues today. Hi, Phil. Amazing to have you here with us again. And yeah, before we dive into our third episode of our Building Public event, Gareth, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, maybe Gap Consulting, which is your agency, and just a little bit more about your background, because we've known you for like 2 episodes now, but let's make sure that everyone else gets to know what you do as well.
No, I appreciate it. So it was about 5 years ago that I got laid off from my job in corporate finance. I was living and breathing Excel at the time, and I mean, as a finance person does, and I kind of just stumbled into Airtable, and I read some article about it in a tech blog, and I thought that's a cool software, and it sounds like it can do a lot of the stuff that I do on a daily basis, but kind of behind the scenes, like organize that data, automate that data in a way that you know isn't so manual. So anyway, one thing led to another. I went to YouTube to figure out more about it, as like our generation does, right? Like, what do you, if you want to learn about something, where do you go, right? And I go to YouTube, and there's nothing, like just nothing useful out there, and I'm like, well, this isn't helpful. So I was like, just thought, I guess I'll have to figure it out on my own, and I did, and then I put it out there and started sharing that with the world on YouTube. And practically immediately, the response just started rolling in. People were calling us and saying, "Hey, can you build us this thing? Can you do this, that?" I say us. In those days, it was literally me. And yeah, it's just been a wild roller coaster ride ever since. We do 7 figures a year right now in consulting services that range from building something from start to finish to just an hour or two of help if you need it. And then we also built some courses. So yeah, we're just really passionate now about helping other people learn how to leverage these tools and get the most out of them, because they're just so powerful, as I hope we are demonstrating here.
100%. And I'm
Bill,
sure,
you're muted, buddy.
yeah, Phil is muted, but I'm sure
I'm
that,
getting used to this new platform.
yeah,
Right?
today we're doing everything in public. We're
Everything.
scheduling events in public and all of that.
Everything's live.
But
It's all live. Well,
everything's
one thing
live.
I'll say, Gareth, about Gap Consulting as well is like, because I've now worked with you and some members on your team on stuff like behind the scenes also. And one thing that I can say about working with Gap, beyond the fact that, they're obviously experts at this stuff, the way that y'all explain stuff so people can own this on their teams is really important. Like, I'm understanding concepts that I never even understood before because of the way that you're breaking them down and explaining them, and the way that Jared on your team has broken down and explained things to us. So it goes way beyond, like, when you're working with an Airtable expert, I think it goes beyond just like, hey, can you build this for me? It's like, how do you empower someone to be the driver of their own car? And I think y'all are just, second to none at that. It's really impressive.
Really appreciate that. That's part of our like core mission, if you will, as a company. It's always been education first, because these tools are made for everybody, and it's not like what was that software even like 5 years ago? That was the big automation software. It was Intuit, where it's like you had to be a ninja level expert, like Jedi expert, in order to be able to use this thing. And these no code tools are made for everybody.
Yeah.
That's our key takeaway. Anyway, if you guys are interested, I'm gonna put a link together. I just dropped it in the private chat. Claudia, if you can share it with the group. I'm not
Sure.
sure about this new platform. This is our Airtable crash course. It's 100% free. If you are new to Airtable,
There you
go
go.
ahead and sign up. Thank you so much, and you can check that out. Get mini lessons delivered to you over the series of number of days. Get
100%. And I even think, Gareth, that by watching our couple episodes, prior to today, a couple people in the chat I've noticed them saying like, "Hey, thank you so much, Gareth, for this kind of crash course already." So, if you thought that was a crash course, well, don't miss out on this full-on proper crash course on Airtable, because Gareth, just like what Phil was saying, has an amazing teaching style, and sometimes that's all you need: a good teacher combined with great tools. So amazing. Awesome.
So,
Well, I
boom.
can see there's people in the chat. Let us know who's here. I can see Ben, so let us know who's connecting from where. I always love to keep our events interactive, so make sure you chat away. And should we get started with our build?
Do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. So, Gareth, as a recap from last time, so on the first call, we really talked about taking trying to think the best way to say it, taking all of our form data and moving it into one form. Do you want to talk about like the best practice on that front? Like why we put all the forms into one thing really quick?
Yeah, just in case anybody's joining us for the first time, we've got a bunch of different forms on Phil's website that are asking different stuff. And a common misconception is like to create a different table for every form and say, I'm going to capture this data in the table for form 1. This other form is going to go into form 2. My preferred approach is to say, well, let's really identify the different data sets that we're working with. In this case, the person, the contact, is filling out the form, and then the information they give you on the form is related information. And key word there is related information, which means that we're going to link that stuff all together, right?
Yep.
So yeah, go ahead.
Gareth, no, please.
Long story short, once we identify what those data sets are, in our case, what did I say? We're talking about forms and people. Well, then we build the structure to support that so that we have contact information in the contact table. We build form information in the form table, and then we link that data together so that we're able to see this person submitted a form. This is what they submitted. And the added benefit here is that person, undoubtedly, you'll see the same person filling out multiple forms. And now you don't create redundant data in your database. Instead, you say, Phil filled out a form. He gave me this information. Phil filled out another form. He gave me more information. And it's all connected to Phil so that you get a true vision of what Phil is doing in our example here inside of his interaction with your company.
Awesome. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it should work exactly.
Can you all see my screen okay?
There you go.
Cool.
Can I just say, I think I like this platform a little bit better already.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like, I like this. What is this?
It's kind of nice. Well, you know what I noticed in the YouTube recordings of the Mel ones? You couldn't see my cursor, oddly.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, hey, look, you can see my cursor. Okay. So let's jump right in. So we just went over these forms, right? And then the other thing we talked about is the automation that captures data, right? To do a quick recap there. Data is being captured via forms, and some of that data is being sent to the forms object here, and some was being sent to contacts object, and then they were being linked together via a linked record. That way, with database best practices, you're not storing the same data in two different places. Right. Cool. So, Gareth, on that front, let's dive in, shall we?
Let's do it.
So my first question is actually related right back to that. So let's say, Jane here submitted 2 forms, right? We already went over that Jane's information via the Zapier thing the Zapier automation we built would be linked, right? Which is great. But what if Jane gives us like an updated piece of information on like the same form? I'm curious.
Well, let me pause here. Is Jane submitting a new form, or is she editing an existing form submission? Because the second one is slightly more advanced. I don't know if you are.
No one will be editing form submissions with us.
Okay.
They're just submitting a new one. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, Jane is just going to fill out a new form, right? So it's going to record another submission of a form that she's perhaps filled out previously.
Correct. Like, let's say Jane, or let's say use me, Phil here, right? Because I did this, right? Like, let's say Phil comes back and submits the community form again, but this time is now also using tool 2.
Right.
Right.
Right. So it's the way that we've built this is it will just record yet another record in your database, and it will now mark all 3 tools instead of just 1 and 3.
Yep.
Now, to your question, how do we show that at the contact level?
Yes.
So what we need to do now is really go into the contact and basically summarize the data that we've received on the forms.
Okay.
And so there are a couple of fields that we use in Airtable to perform this, and the field type will matter here.
Okay.
Basically, what we're doing is we're reaching through a layer of data. We're saying, hey, at the contact level, we want to reach into the forms table and pull back some information and maybe manipulate that data in some sort of aggregation way.
Correct. So let's say in this form Jane submitted she uses tool 1, right?
Right.
But maybe on this one she said she used tool 2, and I want to show that she uses 1 and 2 on the contact level.
Right. So the first, and I think this is something we talked about last week as well, was building a multi-select field that consolidated all of these tools on the multi-select field. So why don't
Which was going to be my next question, but if we want to hop to that first and build that before building this, then that makes total sense.
I think it makes sense to do that here at the form level, right?
Okay.
To build that multi-select field, bring in that form, and then we can grab that into our contact level as well.
Let's do it. So how would we first, and for everyone, if it is your first time in this call, when we get all of these fields via Webflow, and I'll show everybody the brand new shiny NoCodeOps site, right? When somebody goes here, they're selecting these different tools, and it's basically coming in as true or false for each one. And so how that represents itself in our Airtable database once it comes through via Zapier is it looks like this, and we want to make this into a multi-select field. So Gareth, take us away here.
Cool. So we can basically build an automation that says if tool 1 is checked in the tool 1 checkbox, then I want to add it to the drop-down list of tools.
Got it. So if I put in, I'm assuming I would start here by building this multi-select.
Well,
right.
Hold on. I want to talk about options before we get going.
Woo!
So this is one option, right? We could build an automation, but the trick here is that for every every instance of a field for tool 1, tool 2, tool 3, we would need to replicate this automation, and that gets automation heavy, right? Mm-hmm. I'd much rather build one automation to rule them all as opposed to an automation that I have to duplicate over and over and over again. And so I'm trying to think through as I'm like pandering as I'm talking, if you couldn't tell, trying to think through if there's a way that we could build like one master automation, but it doesn't come to mind quickly. So my fear is that we would have to build, 3, 4, in our example, 3 automations, but I know your actual case has like 10 different tools.
There's like 10 total. Yeah.
Which adds up, and it doesn't feel like a best practice to me, to replicate one automation to do all this stuff. So, and I know that we talked about maybe having this topic as well today. When do we differentiate between an automation and a formula? I can build just as easily a formula that outputs a list of, it says if that box is checked, then I want to output, tool 1.
Right, but that would more look like a text field, right? That would just be listing them out as opposed to like being a multi-select where you can filter really easily and all of that stuff.
That's true, although we can then take a text field and quickly build one automation that says if a change is ever made in that text field, then update a multi-select field. And now we have one automation focused on the text field.
Now we're getting into daisy chaining.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a complicated use case for sure, but I think that would be my preferred approach here.
Okay. So you want to walk me through this?
Yeah, we're going to stumble through it together. I should have prepped this.
Dude,
This is what happens when you go live, folks.
No practice today.
All right, so let's start with a new formula. So let's just add a field to the right of tool 3 there. And it'll be a formula field type. Don't really care what you call it because we might need to make multiple formula. Very often when I'm writing formulas in Airtable, I'll break it down into base components and kind of try to solve one piece at a time. Nothing could go wrong, says Maxwell. He's totally right. Nothing could go wrong. But yeah, we can like, what I was saying is we build formulas very often in stages, right? So it's like, make sure it's doing this thing that we need it to do for one field, and then we can, tack on additional things. Anyway, let's give it a shot. We will say if, and open parenthesis, tool 1, and we're just going to refer to that tool 1 field, comma, then, and inside of quotes, either single or double, doesn't matter. Oh, we don't need to put then. Sorry, that was my inside of quotes, then we can say tool 1. This is going to be the output here.
Yep.
And let's add a comma to the, I'm trying to think of how the best way to make an array would be. Let's make a comma and a space inside the quotes. I think we'll give, no, I don't like, let's just do a comma and then inside there, cut the space. There we go. And close the quote. Delete the second one. Yep. And just close this parenthesis real quick and just to demo what output we're going to get. So you can see that basically we're saying, hey, if that box is checked, then we're getting an output for tool 1 now. And so far, so good. With me so far?
Yep.
Okay. Part I'm getting a little tripped up on in my simple mind is what do we do with spaces here, and how do we determine if we need to create a space in our array? I'm hopeful that our array will work without a space.
Could you just put it right here after tool or after the comma?
If we do that and we don't have an additional thing, then I'm worried it'll treat it like we do have an additional thing.
Yeah. So it could just be like a bunch of spaces in the next tool.
Right, which I want to avoid. So I'm hopeful that Airtable will pick it up without the space, because a comma in Airtable means, hey, we're dealing with an array here. So hopefully that'll work. Well, that's going to be a big question mark for us. So cool. This might break. I'm just going to preface this by saying we might be breaking stuff. All right. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to chain a bunch of if statements. Let's try to do an ampersand now. You can even space it. It doesn't matter if you have a space after this. And let's say, I don't know if it's going to work, but let's try it again. Another if statement.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
That could be a new motto for our community. Break it until you make it.
Break it? Yeah. See?
Gareth, if you break it, you bought it, man.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
I built it. And so now we're just gonna, and it doesn't look like, so what I'm looking at here is the color of that ampersand. It doesn't appear to be recognizing it as a valid character. So I'm guessing we're gonna need to change it up a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna try this. So we're gonna say, and let's go look at tool 2. Yeah, comma. And the same thing here, just tool 2 with a comma again inside those quotes, and then try to close that parenthesis and save it. I don't know if it'll let us. I think this is bad syntax. Oh, thank goodness. It does like us. All right, let's scroll over to verify that we're getting the output we expect here. So if we have tool 1 marked, we're getting love it. So that formula is updating properly for every tool that we have, so we can continue to build this out. All right, so far so good.
It looks a little bit funky when there's A, no space, and then B, like tool has a comma, even though there's nothing after it, but that's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's part of the confusion for me is going to be to see if we can actually tell Airtable that text does need to be broken up into an array. And that's the big, like, fingers crossed moment for me that's coming up in the automation in a second.
All right. So what's next? And then same thing for tool 3, right?
Mm-hmm. So key takeaway from this, even if this winds up blowing up on us in a minute, which it very well may, the key takeaway can still be that we're building our formula in bite-sized chunks here. See how we're just taking it one step at a time, making sure we get the output we want before we go on and do more stuff. All right. Let's now try to build an automation. I think it might break, but I've thought that from the beginning and we're still here. So let's keep going.
Confidence, Gareth. Confidence.
Well, sometimes you just ram your head against a brick wall enough times.
I got one right here, man. Whenever you're ready, just let me know.
Right over.
Cool. So, am I adding a new adding a multi?
Well, we already have a multi-select field, right? I think.
I don't think I actually do yet.
All right, here we have tools.
No, hold on. Yeah, we got it.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's go ahead and we already have the fields here. It looks good. Let's save that up and let's head into our automations panel. If you're newer to Airtable, automations are possible right inside of the software. Excuse me. We are going to set a condition that's add trigger so that when a record is updated, and let's select the table. We're looking at the forms table. Click out of here. We got the trigger type is right. Yeah, the table here is the forms table. We don't care about the view. That's optional. And we're going to say we're only interested in the formula. If the formula changes, then we're going to need to change our multi-select field. So let's choose a record. All right, any of these is fine. Let's start with the most complex use case. Yeah, exactly. All three are checked. I love it. And now we're going to go to add advanced logic or action. We're going to say we are going to update a record. So all we're doing is we're saying if our formula changes, then we want to update our multi-select field that's right next to it.
And Gareth, to confirm, changes right here when a record is updated means there was nothing in there, now there's something in there. Or there was something in there, but now there's something else in there, either added or removed. So like any of those things would trigger this.
That is accurate. Yes.
Right. Okay.
So yes, excellent. So now we're going to update that record. Let's go to select a table, and we will select the forms table again. It's going to ask us what record we want to update. It's the record that triggered the automation. So we can click on that little plus and pull in the record ID. A quick reminder from last week's, it's the very top piece there, Phil. Quick reminder from Airtable has a unique record ID for every record that exists. That record ID is meta. It is assigned when the record comes into existence. We always want to use a record ID when we build automations if possible, because it makes sure that we're not linking to the wrong thing. So if you had like a contacts table and you had 2 John Smiths and you tried to use a name instead of a record ID, you might link to the wrong John.
Yep. Got it.
Cool. So what field are we going to update? We're going to update that multi-select field, which you called tools. And we want to update it with whatever the change is in the formula output. So on the gear to the right of this field, we'll click that and select dynamic. Sorry, bad time to take a sip. Grab that plus, and we're going to access the formula output. So whatever that formula field that you created was, I forgot the name. Yeah, there we go. So let's just generate preview. So see down here, we have the option of either running it or generating a preview. Let's see what it would create for us. All right, so it's giving us 4 different tools here. I don't know why it's selecting the blank tool, because I don't think there's a space anywhere in our formula.
I didn't think so.
The only spaces are between tool and the number, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's run it as configured just to see what it spits out for us.
Okay. So how do I do that?
So up above that generate a preview button, the blue one, click on run as configured and just say run test. And let's flip into our data now and confirm what we got.
Should I turn it on?
Yeah, we can. So it does look like it created that fourth bubble for us. And I think that this is because of the last.
There's a comma after 3.
I think that's it. So we're going to have to adjust our formula. This is like some serious magic that we're getting to here.
I love it.
So
because now for folks in the audience and for me, really. Yeah.
Sorry. Should I take a breath? Am I going too hard here?
No, you're good. This is great. But okay, let me just confirm this. With the automation that we created, if there is no option that reflects that thing that it's saying to do, then it will create that option as a new select in the multi-select, a new option.
That's correct. It will always create a
even
new
though I removed that blank one before, it recreated it because it thinks that there's another thing after this comma.
Yet saying I saw the comma, and a comma to me means an array. And since I'm converting an array to a multi-select field, I think that you're telling me there's another thing that's blank after this comma.
So then it created it as a new option in multi.
Yeah, okay. That's what it did. And we don't want that. So right now, by the way, you've turned your automation on. I would encourage you to check a box in any of these tools. That is going to update your formula, which will then trigger your automation to then update your tools. Did we turn the automation on? I thought we did. There it is.
There it is.
So you're getting that. You're getting pretty darn close to what we want, except we want to eliminate that last comma, right?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to make it as easy as possible. Let's create a new formula field. Rather than going back and like maybe accidentally breaking our other formula, let's add on to it. Yeah, let's
just
add
duplicate
a new
it.
Say again?
Should I just duplicate this field?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
Now let's click into there. And what I want to do is delete all this formula stuff. And we can just say concatenate. And then we're going to refer to the other formula, tool combo formula. Concatenate is going to convert it into a string. I guess technically I don't need to do that because it's already a string, but I'm doing it just probably to be redundant. And then close this parenthesis. And then at the beginning of concatenate,
what do you mean
we're going to hold on. So here's what we need to do. This is like in English. We need to calculate how long the string is, what the length of the string is. Mm-hmm. And then we need to change it with an output of 1 less in length. So we're going to say, maybe I've got 20 characters, but I want to drop that last comma. So I want to only return the first 19 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we always want 1 character less than whatever it gave us.
Right. So let's start with this. Let's junk this. Sorry, my brain is slow to upload.
Dude, you're good. This is great. This is the juice, you know? Like it's not all, it's not all shiny like look at my beautiful CRM. Like this is the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it.
That's
true.
The proper operators behind the scene.
Well, I'll tell you, and like a lot of the time, some of the feedback we'll get is that our clients like to see the hard stuff, right? Because that's it. It's humanizing, right? Yep. Like even though we do this day in day out, it's not always like super straightforward. So you gotta struggle through it. All right. Anyway, let's do len, L-E-N. And then inside of here, the juice sounds like that quote from $1 Million Arm. Inside of len, we're going to look at that first formula, tool combo formula. Close parenthesis. And this is len? Say again?
What is len? Oh, length.
Length. It's going to give us the character length, the character count for those for that string. Let's go ahead and save this and just confirm that we've got this part working. Excuse me. So it's counting the characters in that output. So for tool 5, it's tool has 4 space 2 comma. That's 7. So I'm looking at record 3. So it's outputting 7, and that sounds correct. So what we want to do now, let's click back into our new formula. And we're going to, before len, we're going to say left, L-E-F-T, open parenthesis, and then put a space here, and go back, and now go back one, and now type. I'm only doing this so that it knows that you're going to refer to a field here. Let's find that previous formula, total combo. So what I'm saying is, look at that field, bring back, start at the left of that, and we're going to bring back a number of characters, comma, now. And now go to at the end of your length, after the parenthesis, subtract 1.
Over here?
Yep, right there, perfect. And now close your parenthesis, because you have you have to close out your other formula. So just a quick rewind here. We've got two formulas working. We're saying we're taking we're looking at the text in the tool combo formula. We're bringing back the left characters, and we want to bring back a total of the total length minus 1. So all we did was magic, huh?
And now, wait for it. Let me see if I can do this. And now if I go back to my automations tab, or wait, hold on. Oh, no, wait. Yeah. So this is like it goes here and then it comes here. And this is what I actually want to reference. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I want you to update that automation.
Yep. For this one. So let me call this like,
There's a lot of juice talk in the chat. You guys are getting excited about Airtable. I'm getting excited to see all my friends here, like Max and Carla. Amazing to see you here. Carla just launched her product on Product Hunt as well.
Congrats.
NoCode Craft. Check it out.
Prep. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my automations here. And I'm going to say in this automation that when this field is updated, that field we are going to switch from this one to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's watching that one. And then that's it, yeah?
And well, let's also go into our record now, the update, the second step here. And we're going to update, not with the prep, but when we update the multi-select, we're going to use the output of the final formula. So edit the token here, find the final, and we're good. Last step is to update the automation in the center of the screen towards the top.
Or should I cancel this test?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna roll the dice and see if it's going. We're just going all in.
Yeah. Okay, so now if I go back to my data, then let me just like okay, so this is okay, so now by doing like and making any changes here, let's see.
Yeah, give it a second because it's like it updated first and now it's there it goes. It caught up with you. Good stuff.
The excitement.
And then Gareth, would you recommend just like hiding this field? Because like
I would recommend actually so we use two fields in order to get our outcome that we wanted.
Yep.
Because when you nest a lot of formulas, it gets complicated.
Yep.
But now that we have what we need, let me teach you a little hack to get rid of that first formula. Right now, we are in our final version. We're still referencing the prep version, right?
Yep.
So go into the prep version of the formula, edit the field, copy this formula. So we're copying the one.
We're going to put it in.
Yep. And now we're going to go into the final version. Now that we've copied, it's in your clipboard. Anywhere that you refer to that formula include only the squiggly brackets and the field itself. So everywhere that you've got tool combo formula prep, highlight it, including the squiggly brackets.
So all of this. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It automatically highlights it in other places.
And yeah, there is a way that you can like replace all, and I never remember it, so forgive me.
Looks like it did it. No, it
Nope, we got another tool combo prep right there. If anybody knows the replace all keyboard shortcut, let us know in the chat, please, because I can't remember it. But if we save now, we in no way are we referring to that original formula that we built, and
So
now
we
you
can
can
remove
delete
it.
it and it's gone. And it breaks nothing because everything is using the final version of the formula.
Yep. And then I'm going to remove this, save, change. And then now if like, I don't know, let's say like this person started using this tool and they stopped using this, and you know, whatever, they're only using tool 3. Now there was a change. So I'll say tool 3 there, and then boom.
Phil, what is it that makes you so excited about it? You know, just like for everyone learning here, like what's,
Yeah,
you know,
it's what makes me excited about this, right? Is that like there's this basic level, even in no code, of just like understanding some basic formulas and some basic like ways that databases should operate, that took this really complicated challenge of like Webflow only sends it to us in this way, and this is the best way that we can get it, right? But I actually want it to look like this for a multitude of reasons. How do we make that happen? And now it's beautiful and it works. Yeah, for real.
let's make a GIF.
Now, Gareth, let me ask you this, right? If I don't really care about all of this stuff and I only care about this thing, can I hide all of these fields?
100%.
By the way, I did learn that you could click on a field and then press Control and do multi-select. This is all I wanted this whole time, was this.
Now you have it.
Now, Gareth, let me ask you this. This is now brings us to our second question. Now that these tools are on this formula thing, right? And, you know, what's interesting is, what happens if I remove a thing from here? It doesn't go the other way, right?
It does not go the other direction. So, well, but here's what you can do is go into the tools field. Let's go into editing the field. No, I'm sorry. Don't edit. I lied. Go back to the screen you were on before that. Click on the field. Get that arrow drop down. There we go. You can come on down to permissions, edit field permissions. Who can edit the field? And you can set it to be nobody.
Got it. Got it.
So that nobody can edit this, but you have to allow automations to edit it.
Got it.
Right? So this way, the only time that the change will be made in the field is if, you know, it's a legitimate automation. So that way nobody accidentally comes behind you and deletes stuff. And this brings up a bigger question, Phil. How are people going to access the CRM when you're all said and done? I've got databases that nobody accesses except for the builder, me.
Right.
And then everybody who uses the tool is in the interface, and the interface has locked down permissions. That's like, nobody edits this field, but you can see it, right? And so, like, at that
I
point,
think the thing for me, and this is like why I want to see this stuff, and this brings up the second question that I really wanted to go over with you today, is why it's important for me to see this stuff on the contact level. Because when Jane submitted this form, right, she said, I'm using tool 1 and tool 3 here and just tool 3 here. So we know that she's using, to some degree, tool 1 and tool 3. But let's say we get on a call with Jane and find out she's using tool 2. That should be updated in my mind on the contact level, not on the form level, because she never said that in the form. So from the contact level, I want this stuff to be added to that, if that makes sense.
This is cool. This is a great use case. So what you want to know is, what did Jane tell me on the form? But then we're also having conversations with Jane, and I want to be able to update her contact level information as well.
Yes.
I'm on board with that. All right, so let's go into contacts. The first thing we need to do is, okay, so contacts, by the way, should not have any of these tools here, because I think
these were only here because I duplicated the structure.
Okay. Okay, let's add, first and foremost, let's add a lookup field so that we're looking at, I'm sorry, let's actually, we'll use a rollup field.
What's the difference between a lookup and a rollup?
Oh, such a good question. Okay, so basically both of them go through a layer of data. So they're going to look at a linked relationship and bring in some information. A lookup field is going to look at a specific field and bring back values. A rollup field is going to look at that field and do something to those values. Some sort of aggregation function is what we call it. If they're numbers, it could sum. So like maybe you sent out 3 invoices to somebody, you want to know what the total invoice amount was between the 3 invoices. A rollup field would be able to sum those 3 totals or those 3 values, as opposed to a lookup field, which would just bring back 3 separate values.
Got it. Cool.
All right, so we're going to use a rollup. We're going to look at the forms. We're going to choose a field, and we're going to look at our tools, the multi-select that you built. And we want to bring back, well, I'm trying to think here. So the issue is that somebody might have filled out multiple forms, right? So yeah, we're going to use a unique array. So just type in here a unique in the formula here, unique, and then select array unique values. It's going to return and create this field. It's going to return for you a string that at this point you're very comfortable with because you've already been working with strings all day. And
it's funny. We took it from a string to a multi-select, now back to a string for this purpose.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So and this brings up an interesting point. We could, if you don't care about the multi-select on the forms, we could skip that step, take the formula, bring back a unique array. I like it this way. It's fine. Let's just keep going.
Wait, that's actually a good question. If I'm only going to look at contact level stuff, because I'm more concerned about people than I am about forms, should we just do that on this level?
All right. So here's why I stopped myself. I'm worried that it's going to see one array as tool 1, tool 2. The second array is going to be tool 2, tool 3. Those are different arrays, and I'm worried it'll duplicate tool 2 because it's treating each of these as a unique thing rather than
so it's better to look at it as a multi-select.
So by converting it first to a multi-select, and then we're really breaking it down to its barest elements, and I feel a little bit better about it.
Got it. Really quick before we continue, there's a question.
Before we actually start our Q&A, because we have 10 minutes left.
Is there an easy way to filter by lookup fields via API? I don't know, Carla. So I can help you filter a view inside of Airtable, but are we talking about like we called the API and we have a lookup field and we need to do a filter inside of it's more like a query, right? Like we're trying to query something in the API and we want to only bring back certain information. A lookup field is treated as text in most cases. And so think of it as a string. And that's why very often what you'll want to do is convert it to a different field type using an automation like we demoed in the previous one, because a lot of times those different field types, they have different components, they're treated differently, and they're easier to manipulate. I don't know if that's helpful or not. I hope so.
All right. Sweet. What's the final step that we can showcase before we start?
Hold on. Yeah, we have to finish this off. So Gareth, go ahead.
Yeah.
So the last piece we need to do is just rebuild that automation that we had in the previous, that we already created at the form level, but now we create it for contacts, and we say, if a change ever is made to the roll-up field that we just built, then we're going to update the other one. So we can do this in seconds because we've already built it. Let's go into automations and click at where it says automation 1, duplicate. We're going, and it's the same darn thing. We're just pointing at different places now. So let's go into our trigger, and we will say, not our forms table, but our contacts table. And we will say, don't worry about the view. Let's clear the invalid field. Let's add the select fields, and let's bring in the roll up. Of course, Carla, of course. Yeah, let's bring that one in. That's perfect. Let's choose record, whatever it is. Let's update the record right there. Perfect. Change your table again now to contacts because we're just remapping this for the different table. The record ID is the ID that came from the first field. Trash the unknown field. Add a new field. We're going to add, oh, we didn't build this part yet. Sorry. Let's back out of the automation. Go back to data. We're going to add the multi-select field that we need. This is tools. You don't even have to create those tool types. They'll be created in the automation. Select a multi-select.
Multi-select. Oh, I never even thought of that. That's smart. Okay.
Go in the automation. Let's go back to choose a field here. We will say tools. And we're going to take the roll-up value. So hit the gear to the side over here. Go dynamic. Plus. Find the roll-up. Oh, down to the bottom. Right there. And go for it. Previews are for rookies. We just go for it.
Okay, we'll do live. All right.
Turn the automation on.
How do I do that? Wait. Run is configured?
No, just up at the toolbar there where you got a little red button that says off. Just toggle it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And if you go back to data, so a number of things will trigger this automation. If there's ever a change in the roll-up, which means how could something change in the roll-up? A form is something happens on the form that's different, right?
Yeah.
Or a new form is submitted and they provide new information for you, but it's tied to the same contact.
Yeah.
So
I'd have to look at my hidden fields here.
Right. Well, only for the purpose of triggering the automation. Yeah.
Yeah. But like.
So you make some changes. It's going to change the tools that are showing up here. It's going to trigger the automation because it will change the values here. And now you've got your multi-select that is combining all the tools that they've told you about on the various forms. Now, if your team is in a conversation with these folks and they're talking to John and John mentions he's using tool 1, your team can easily come into that multi-select field on the contact level and add tool 1. And
they can also remove stuff, right, without it affecting the other way, which is actually exactly the intended behavior.
That's exactly true. The only caveat there is if John submits another form, it's going to trigger the whole thing again.
That's fine. If John tells us there's an update, fine.
Right.
Oh, but it would re-update everything.
Correct.
That's not that big of a deal. That's an edge case I'll deal with.
Then we're good. My job here is done.
Well, Gareth, you know what Phil told me? Was like, this is so good, we should continue in doing it for the next month. I was like, yeah, amazing. But I think, you know, for our audience sake and Gareth's mental health, maybe we pause it for a bit.
I think what we'll do over time, right, is like these are so good, but I know there's so many use cases that like I can learn from by watching other people do stuff too, not just me and Airtable and Zapier. And so I think, Claudia, like one thing we'll contemplate over time is like whether it's Gareth or other guests that we bring on, like, you know, in our community, maybe we'll do office hours where it's just like come and like work through a problem live. You're comfortable working through like I am with Gareth here in front of other people. And like, look, I'll always have stuff to ask our guests, but like other people can come up and ask, and we can do that like maybe in our Discord community jam sessions at some point.
100%. I'm a big fan of building in public. All right. Would you say you're satisfied for today's build? Or
Gareth, 10 out of 10. Would highly recommend.
Thanks, man. Woohoo!
Amazing. And thinking up ahead for our next and final episodes, what do you have in mind for that?
So I think we'll do some migration stuff in the next one. And then I have some stuff around like some basics around like a brand new object called accounts, right? Which is like the companies that people work at and like how and when to create those. Cause I don't think they should be as automatic as creating contacts potentially. And I want to hear Gareth's like points of view on that. So that's, and same for opportunity. So maybe talk about like those two other objects more from like a structural level, and then also talk about migration. I think those are the two other big things. Before we finish today though, or jump into any questions, the 1 second question I had for you, Gareth, was we talked before the call about showing if a contact is like an ideal client for us or not based on their tools, and that is better as a formula as opposed to an automation. Can you, one, tell us why that's better as a formula over an automation, and two, can we just like nail that real quick?
100%. So here, yeah, we actually got into this quite extensively here today. Formulas versus automations. A formula is going to give you an output based on conditions that you establish in the logic of the formula, whereas an automation performs something one time, right? It's like I did the thing you told me to do. And so a formula is really useful where you're saying like, hey, if a box is checked or unchecked in our example today, then I need to change the output here, and it will be changed permanently, right? It will remain changed until the boxes are represented differently. Whereas an automation says, that thing, like something happened, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to perform this action, right? Or series of actions. So in our case, you've got a scenario where you want your folks to be able to update that multi-select field over time. Okay, cool. But at the same time, if more information is received, you also want the automation to come in and update that stuff. If a person is an ideal customer for you, like you might establish a rule that says if they're using tools 1 and 3, but not just 1.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. If they are using 1 and 3.
And only under those conditions are we going to call them an ideal client.
By the way, they could also be using 2, but that doesn't matter. They must be using at least both 1 and 3.
Whatever the rules are, right? Like whatever the rules that you set up are, you can get as complicated as you want. You could say they have to be using 1 and 3 or 2 and 3.
Yep.
But not just 3, right? Yep. I mean, like whatever, right?
Whatever it is.
Whatever that logic is, you build it in a formula. You simply say, if I'm looking at the multi-select field and I find the value tool 1 and I find the value tool 3, only under that condition where I have both of those values am I going to mark this person as an ideal client. But there's an easier way that I can show you in 30 seconds if you want to share your screen.
Let's do it. Oh, I thought I was sharing my screen.
Yeah, let me just put it back up.
I already started, Gareth.
Oh, cool. Claudia took your permissions away.
Always. Let me see.
She's the boss. I'm just, I just show up and talk.
I hear it. I hear you.
There you go.
Cool. All right, so let's actually skip the formula and use some colors. Are you on a pro account here?
Yeah.
Great. Go up to your toolbar where you see the sort and group and filter and all of that in the view. We're going to hit color. And you can add a condition that says, look at the tool field, not full name, but tool, the multi-select. If it has both of or has all of.
If it has all of.
Tool 1 and 3. Then, and where you've got that little light blue color, you can update that to be like red or something vibrant or whatever you want. And now you can see visually who these people are. Just right there.
Oh, here.
So that's the quick and easy way to do it. Yeah. You can also build views that you could say build a view for your ideal customers where you create a view and you apply a filter that says, I only want to see customers who are using tool 1 and 3.
Right. And so I can go like this and I can say for grid 2, I can say, or I can create a filter essentially.
Exactly. And just add the same condition that we were just kind of like playing with on the other one. So now you're removing anybody who's not an ideal client, and you've got a subset of data here.
Very cool.
Deleted, they're just hidden from view.
My last question for you on this front, right, is, and I like that you can both see them in green here, that they stand out in the larger one.
Yeah.
And I like that. I actually like both. But let me ask you this. When does it make sense to just do something in a rule on a filter versus actually have like a tag that goes ICP, not ICP, and then use that?
It really comes down to use case. Like if you're, it has to do with the workflow that you're working on. So like if you said, hey, Gareth, I want to send an email only to my ideal customers.
Yes.
Cool. Well, then let's build a view, because you can export that data and set it up in an email.
Sure.
You know, whatever you need to do. On the other hand, if you're like, I need an automation to trigger based on them being an ideal customer. Okay, well, we can do that too. And of course, in that case, you're going to do like you don't necessarily need the tag. You can set up the automation to say, if
Just
they have
based on
these
the
tools,
view.
then do it, right? So
Yep.
it
Do you
really
ever
depends
need
on
a
what
tag
you
for
need
that
to do.
type of stuff?
Say again?
Sorry, do you ever need a tag for that type of stuff?
Not really. You know, if you're just tagging it, it's kind of superfluous. Unless it's just you find it an easier way to communicate to your team that you marked this person as an ideal customer.
Got it. So you can use a tag and sort on that tag, you know, or you cannot use a tag and just sort on the actual conditions in a view.
Right. Because I feel like it's redundant data, right? You're just
Right.
applying some rules to a tag, but you could
Right.
apply those rules to a view just as easily. So anyway.
Got it. Cool. Well, on that note, I hear there's a great gift that I'm missing out on.
Yeah, where's the gift, guys?
Where is
I'm
this?
dying. I'm dying so much. Our
Wait,
community.
I'm
I
gonna-
love our community. It's in
Can
our
you
Discord
share your
already.
screen?
It's in our Discord. I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I have too many things open, but you can. I love our community so much. Max, you made me die. I love it. And as you can hear, we also have kind of credit music in the background. Isn't that cool? And that means that we're heading towards the end of today's event. If you guys are done being nerds and geeking out on Airtable, then we
We're
can
done for
just
today.
you're
Back
done
next
for
week.
today.
And hold on. Where is it in? Is it
It's in
general?
social highlights. That's it.
Oh God.
I love it so much.
I'm trying to see what it looks like.
Yeah, don't know why you have all the restrictions.
Well, oh God.
Oh, here it goes. Perfect.
I'm
Max!
gonna be using that so much.
Max!
I love it.
Awesome.
And I guess on that beautiful note, if we don't have any burning questions from our audience today, I'll keep the ones in the forum for next week. I promise you guys, I'm gonna leave at least 10 minutes reserved to your questions. And yeah, if we don't have anything else to say here,
Cool.
thank you so much,
Gareth, we'll see
Ben,
you next
Benjamin, Carla, everyone watching us today. Thank you once again, Gareth. I did share your course again. Let me just put it up
Yeah.
one
Little
more
crash
time.
course? Yeah, absolutely
crash
free, guys.
course.
If you want to level up in Airtable quickly.
100%. I also signed up for it because
Oh, sweet.
you can never do too many courses in one day. All right. Well, I'll see you all next week and have an amazing weekend. And yeah, take care.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everybody.
Bye, everyone.